In 1994, three big-time Hollywood names decided to form their own entertainment distribution company, taking a massive risk in the process. Few studios have attempted to join the six majors, as any number of flops can lead to their downfall. And yet, DreamWorks Pictures still perseveres, even if its original ambitious goals weren't met, and two of its founders have moved on to other ventures. The creation of DreamWorks wasn't too harebrained when considering the people responsible for mounting the studio. Steven Spielberg is of course one of the most successful filmmakers in Hollywood history. Jeffrey Katzenberg helped reignite Disney Animation's popularity in the 1980s and 90s, and David Geffen had produced his fair share of hit movies too, including Little Shop of Horrors and Beetlejuice. As is normal for a new studio, it took a few years for their projects to hit screens, but the first ones out of the gate in 1997 certainly had promise. The first DreamWorks release was Mimi Letter's political thriller The Peacemaker, starring George Clooney and Nicole Kidman. This was followed a few months later by Steven Spielberg's slavery drama Amistad, seen as a surefire Oscar contender. Neither film lit the box office on fire though, with Amistad even becoming the rare Spielberg-directed film to lose money. DreamWorks' biggest hit from their first year turned out to be Gore Verbinski's feature-directing debut Mouse Hunt, a slapstick comedy about a sneaky rodent. But DreamWorks was just getting started, as 1998 proved to be an eventful year for the fledgling company. Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan was an enormous success, and Deep Impact was a notable summer blockbuster, even if it was not the highest-grossing asteroid movie of the year. Katzenberg's animation division managed to release its first movies in the span of a few months, with the computer-animated comedy Ants and the hand-drawn biblical epic The Prince of Egypt, making marks of their own even when directly competing with other family films. DreamWorks was in an interesting place in Hollywood though, as while they self-distributed many of their own films, the studio relied heavily on working with the already established majors. Some of their hits, like Meet the Parents, What Lies Beneath, Castaway, and the aforementioned Private Ryan, were co-productions with the likes of Universal, 20th Century Fox, and Paramount Pictures. The Fishing Boy logo was prominent in the advertising, but the studio did not get all the profits in those cases, leading to more than one distributor taking credit for the same success. DreamWorks did lay claim to an important achievement when it came to awards recognition. DreamWorks ended up winning the Best Picture Academy Award 3 years in a row for American Beauty, Gladiator, and A Beautiful Mind. That gave them a certain amount of prestige and portrayed them as a place for filmmakers to make serious adult films. In fact, DreamWorks was not quite so reliant on franchises like the big studios were. Not to say DreamWorks was not above launching franchises, which it did with Meet the Parents and Shrek. However, Spielberg saw his new studio as one that could produce a variety of films for different audiences. That output in 2002 especially showed how this could be done to maximum effect. Spielberg's sci-fi action movie Minority Report and clever caper Catch Me If You Can were DreamWorks' biggest hits of that year, and the studio also found success with the gangster picture Road to Perdition and the horror movie The Ring. DreamWorks did seem to invest quite a bit in comedies, especially in the early 2000s. Much of this was probably spurred by the sleeper success of Mouse Hunt, Meet the Parents, and Road Trip, thus leading to the green light of low and mid-budget comedies like Old School, Head of State, Envy, Euro Trip, Surviving Christmas, and Anchorman: The Legend of Ron Burgundy. DreamWorks also signed a deal with Woody Allen to distribute his comedies for a few years. Some of these found an audience, while others were largely ignored and forgotten by the public. As the decade continued on, the miss-to-hit ratio emphasized the flops more, and there was further reliance on Spielberg's directorial output and the animation department to keep the company afloat. Although even that was not foolproof, as the massive failure of Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas, almost bankrupted DreamWorks. In 2004, DreamWorks Animation eventually spun off into its own separate publicly traded company. Feeling its days as a distributor waning, DreamWorks was sold to Paramount in 2005, surprising many in the film industry. Many had expected Universal to be the obvious home, due to Spielberg's long relationship with the studio and the fact that his office was located on the lot. Universal also handled DreamWorks' home video releases and was its international distributor. But Paramount ultimately won out, and DreamWorks did supply the mountain with a fair share of box office hits, like Blades of Glory, Disturbia, and Tropic Thunder. They also had a hand in bringing the Transformers property to Paramount. However, DreamWorks felt they were not getting enough credit for their contributions to Paramount's slate, and let's just say Spielberg and Viacom CEO Philippe Dauman were not all that fond of each other. Eventually, Spielberg decided it was time for the two studios to split up, although Paramount kept the DreamWorks library and franchise rights, essentially taking the company back to square one. David Geffen had also left DreamWorks in 2008, leaving Spielberg by himself to run the studio with his team. In a surprising move, Spielberg signed a deal with Disney to distribute their movies, starting in 2011. This partnership produced quite a few hits for Disney, including Real Steel, The Help, Warhorse, and Lincoln. It seemed like they had a nice relationship going on, and a fitting one too, as Spielberg had long wanted to make films with Disney. It was a way for Disney to produce prestigious award-winning films that also attracted a sizable and sophisticated movie audience. Spielberg even got to fulfill a lifelong dream of directing his first Disney-branded film with the BFG. But then Disney started releasing the Marvel movies, and then they bought the Star Wars brand, and their attention started to shift more so towards massive franchise movies and big-budget family titles. Spielberg felt DreamWorks was being ignored by Bob Iger and studio chairman Alan Horn, and they agreed to end their deal. Although Spielberg is currently set to direct an adaptation of West Side Story for 20th Century Fox and a new Indiana Jones sequel for Lucasfilm, so I guess he never left Disney anyway. In the end, Universal signed a distribution deal with DreamWorks, although it is free to take its projects to other distributors, as Ghost in the Shell was released by Paramount and The Post was greenlit by Fox. Despite Disney no longer paying the bills, DreamWorks has been doing quite nicely, as the studio recently took home another Best Picture Oscar for Green Book. DreamWorks Pictures has certainly had its fair share of ups and downs, but even though only the S from SKG remains and it's merely a production company these days, it's nice to see the place is still around and devoted to supporting adult dramas directed by notable filmmakers. And whenever I watch the opening logo of that John Williams fanfare before a movie, I do get a certain nostalgic feeling. DreamWorks Pictures has been involved in the production of so many fantastic films, and I look forward to seeing what the house that Spielberg, Katzenberg, and Geffen built has planned for the future. See you next time.